Hey worship leaders, today I want to talk to you about how you can get a cohesive sound out of your band, and spoiler alert, it's probably not what you think. Alright, so before we dive right in, be sure to subscribe to my channel. I put out new videos every single Wednesday, and this is the third in a series on worship leadership. So go ahead and hit the subscribe button, and maybe even hit the bell to be notified when the next video goes live. So in addition to being a worship pastor for 3.5 years and being a volunteer worship leader at the church where I'm currently attending with my wife, I also grew up playing music in church. And at the time of this recording, I've been playing music in church for 20 years. It's pretty crazy to think about, but anyway, that's... and in that time, I've played all sorts of church services, from Sunday mornings to youth services to filling in last minute or even being called up on stage randomly. But I've also played in some cover bands and done a lot of sub gigs in different places. Played with a symphony a couple times, which is pretty cool. And I don't say these things to kind of toot my own horn, but rather just to say that over the course of 20 years, you end up doing a lot of stuff. And hopefully you learn even more. And one of the many things that I've learned as a gigging musician is that some bands sound great and others do not. And more specifically, some bands sound like a band, right? Like they sound cohesive, they're making great music, and others sound like a bunch of musicians got thrown together into a room and vomited something from the stage for their audience, which is a disgusting way to look at it, but that's how it sounds. So, how can you be the former and not the latter? Well, today I want to share with you some things that I've learned along the way that will help your worship team develop a tight, cohesive sound. So step one to achieving a tight sound is to know that music is a conversation. And again, if you're new to music, you've never heard that term before, music is a conversation, you may be like, what are you talking about? Well, you ever see a band that plays and after the show or during, you think like, man, they really seem like they were talking to each other without using words. Like they would just kind of throw eyes at each other or like give each other a look, or there was a head nod here or there, and everybody knew what was happening. That's part of the conversation. That's the very obvious communicative part of the conversation. But on a musical level, musically speaking, everybody's saying something different. Like the drummer is saying something, the guitarist, the bassist, the keyboardist, and your vocalist, just to name the most basic parts of a band, they're all saying different things. The thing is, if just like in real life, if we're all trying to have our say over the other, then nothing really gets said or understood or spoken. No messages come across, nothing is shared. So when I say music is a conversation, the keys need to find their part. They need to find where they fit in with the rest of the band. The guitar needs to find its part. The bass line needs to find where it fits in with the rest of the band. And obviously the drums and the vocalists. And each instrument needs to know their moment. And literally sometimes it can be a split second to shine. So a little flourish on the keys here, or a little lick on the guitar there, and the bass and drums doing the same thing. But before we can even start to speak, we should actually listen to what's happening in the rest of the band. And you hear this a lot. I mean, you can. There are lots of ways to listen to what's happening in the conversation. You can listen to the original recording of the song and hear what all the parts are, hear your part, hear your bass line, guitar line, or whatever. So one of the things that you should do is actually, when you're together in your band setting, as an instrumentalist, as a vocalist not so much, because I mean you're just doing, well, yeah, even as a vocalist, don't do any vocal runs. Just sing the melody as it is, super straight. If you're a keys player or a guitar player, bass, drum player, try not to do any fills. Just play the rhythm section. Work on being an amazing rhythm section and see what everybody sounds like individually. Like, where does the guitarist accent 16ths? Where does the keyboard player accent certain chords, or where do they make changes? Do they push eighths? Do they push sixteenths? Does the band leader or the worship leader want to push things? Do they want to play things more straight? Do you want the song to have more groove and swing and kind of have a laid back feel or a driving forward feel? All these sorts of things, we at first, before we even start with the flourishes, we just need to get a great rhythm section down. Some of the best music that you love. I don't know what type of music you like. Doesn't really matter. But at the base of it, at the core of it, is an amazing rhythm section. So work out your rhythm parts, work out how you play rhythm, work out or listen to the other people playing rhythm and how they play their rhythms. And from there, you can then slowly start to add your flourishes, whether it be, funkier chords on as a keyboardist, or whether it's little licks and runs as a guitarist and doing more lead line stuff. In worship music these days, there's a lot of lead synth lines and lead guitar lines that are part of intros and instrumentals and that sort of thing. So you should learn those, but play them, to start anyway, play them as written. Don't go trying to be Brian May or anything. Just, play it as written. Get comfortable with playing just the basics with everyone around you, and then you'll slowly be able to start adding your flavor, your piece to the conversation. So that's step number one. Music is a conversation. Listen first, speak second. Step two, I kind of already talked about it, but I'll say it again. Everybody has a part to play. Pun very much intended. So like I said, in modern worship music, there are lots of lead synth lines and lead guitar lines. There might even be this rhythm electric part or a rhythm acoustic part where you're, playing driving eighths or more of a groovy 16th type thing. And same thing with the keys. Maybe you're playing these beautifully harmonized jazzy chords, or maybe you've got more of a rhythm to your keyboard playing. Maybe you're not playing chords at all. Maybe all you're doing is playing these synth lines that are arpeggiated, or you're just playing pads. Sometimes your part is to play the pad and be the bedrock of the song. That's kind of the low end, beefy. Well, you know what a pad is. Everybody has a part to play. But again, we should be focusing on playing these lines or these parts as written before we start to add our own flavoring to them. Last but not least, perhaps the most important one is step number 3, and that is that it's going to take time. I know we live in a world of instant gratification where like Amazon is making deliveries within 2 hours sometimes, right? Like you order it at a friend's house and it beats you home, right? But this is not something you can rush. This is relationship building actually among your band members. This is just learning to listen to each other. Like if you're new to this thing, if you guys have just begun incorporating a full band or a full team, recognize that it's going to take time. Like you just have to play with each other enough to begin to know, oh yeah, the drummer is going to do this specific fill. Oh, this guitar player likes to play these types of open chords. Like when he's leading, he prefers to sing in the key of E because that works well with his chords. He's got a lot of nice major 7ths and 9ths and that sort of thing. And so you adjust accordingly. Maybe you've got a guitar player that likes to play low on the guitar, and so the keys might have to play a little higher and adjust accordingly. Whatever it is, it just takes time for you to learn what your other musicians are saying musically. So it is going to take time, but I would encourage you as you get together for rehearsals. Yes, rehearsals are also a time to worship God, but they are also a time to work on your craft as a team, so when you lead the congregation on Sunday, you guys sound like a team and there's fewer distractions for the people of God that are gathered together to worship Him. All right? So now you know my 3 steps to developing a cohesive sound with your band. Number 1, again, music is a conversation. Everybody has something to say and play, and if at first you don't succeed, or even if after 5 months you still don't succeed. Keep going. Don't get frustrated. Don't give up. It is going to take time. Let me know how you achieve a cohesive sound, or what things you have learned from your years of experience in music or in leading people in worship. I would love to hear it in the comments below. If you want to know more of my thoughts on worship leadership, you can check out my video on how to make those around you better from last week, or you can check out the worship leadership playlist. So if this video was helpful to you, I'd really appreciate it if you give it a thumbs up and even share it with a friend. And if you like videos like this, be sure to hit subscribe on the button below. I put new videos out every week. And I will see you on the next one. Ringo, you're messing with my groove, buddy.